What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Redemption with Jaden. Today we're going to be opening some packs. Specifically, we're going to be opening one of every pack in the entire game, except unfortunately I wasn't able to get any of the alternate border packs from Cloud of Witnesses and Revelation of John, but we'll be opening the regular ones, and I'll kind of talk about when those were released and stuff, and we're going to be kind of doing this as a little bit of a history lesson. I mean, I'm going to be kind of going in sequential order. We'll kind of talk about the sets and the cards and any special things that happened that year. But first, before we dive into that, I have a couple of announcements, I guess. First off, you guys hopefully watched the June online tournament game that I posted a couple weeks ago now, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that with the Your Turn Games playmat deck, I guess. Yeah. Speaking of Your Turn Games playmat, hope you guys enjoyed or enjoy seeing this brand new Your Turn Games playmat that Derek released this year. Comes with two versions. This little one with the washed out, get it washed out, logo that he's got here that's not quite as noticeable, but he's also got a version with the yellow regular logo kind of up here in the corner. Both are pretty sweet, and you can go check out the description below if you want to pick up one of those. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy the June online tournament. That is actually going to be the last online tournament game that I post on the channel, at least for the foreseeable future, just because it seemed like they weren't really getting viewed quite as much, and I think it's a little bit harder to kind of see what's going on as it is than it is on Lackey. And so I think I'm just going to stick to doing Lackey games because, I mean, for one, they're easier to edit. I don't have to put all the cards in there, so it's a little bit of a selfish thing. But also, it just seems like they're not getting viewed quite as much, so I want to be putting out content that you guys want to see. So if anybody has some major gripes about that, or is like really going to miss the online tournament games, you can let me know in the comments. I may or may not bring them back at some point, but we shall see about that. If you guys want to see rounds 2 and 3 of the online tournament games, let me know, and I can post those as well. I might not like edit them, so just be like, if you're familiar with the cards, or you can see them well enough as I'm playing, then maybe I'll I can still upload those just so you guys can see how it went. Neither game was super interesting. I mean, it was kind of fun to see how I managed to do with the playmat deck. That was definitely not quite as competitive as some of the other decks that I've been playing in the tournaments. So, but it was still fun, and don't at me for just playing the game or just showing the game that I won. Happened to win with kind of a lucky draw, and but it was round 1, and that was the first one that I edited because of that. So I got that one done, and then kind of made the decision that I don't know if these online tournament games are really worth putting all the effort into when the other games seem to be viewed more. That's just kind of what I'm thinking. And the second announcement is after Nationals, which I assume if you're watching this right away when it's coming out, I'm going to be halfway through a Type 2 multiplayer game, kind of, hoping that it'll be over soon, or, I know I'll be having a lot of fun. Don't worry. I think that it'll be fun. It'll be at Nationals 2021, which will be happening in Texas right now, or, it will have happened if you're watching this video later, which, I can understand, I suppose, if you're at Nationals, but, I don't know, maybe it'd be kind of fun to watch it there too. I don't know. So after Nationals, I'm going to be taking about a month or so, I think, of a break, just to focus on playtesting, and also working on a few decks for Derek at Your Turn Games, and just kind of getting those things worked out. I haven't been able to put quite as much time into playtesting as I would hoped, and as I'm sure the other playtest team and elders and stuff would like to see from those who are playtesting. So I'm going to be taking a little time off of that. I will probably do at least something for like a Nats recap, kind of talking about the different decks that we saw and things that were fun about Nats and that kind of stuff, as I'm sure some of you who aren't able to attend might be interested in. So yeah, I think that will I think that's all the announcements I have, so let's go ahead and just dive into it. So Redemption started in 1995 at, well, I guess it was designed by Rob Anderson, and the first ever official tournament was the national tournament in 1995 at Origins Game Convention in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And at that point there were only Type 1 2-player and Type 1 multiplayer, and the first cards that came out were the, here, I guess I'll show this side, the A and B starter decks. So these came out, I don't remember when I got these, but I keep them in here because yeah, they aren't, they don't have the set icons yet. Actually, at one point I did, you can see I did write on there the A and B things. That was probably a dumb move of me. I definitely got these when I was younger, but it was just like, well, if I ever wanted to play a game with them and I didn't have them sleeved or something, then how would I know which cards are which, especially like the Lost Souls and the Dominance and stuff. So as you can see, they're all pretty basic cards, no special abilities. Some of them are limited and unlimited. I'm not really sure if this was like something that I put together based on like the lists of cards or something, because like, well, actually no, they're all the one or the other. As you can see that the I can't remember which one is which, either unlimited or limited have no redemption like trademark thing at the bottom. They just have the artist. So that's the A deck, and I'm gonna go ahead and pop it back in here. And then the B deck is pretty much the same thing, just a few different brigades and some of the other. The dominants are pretty much the same. Here's a card with a special ability, Net. Obedience of Noah. So there are a few special abilities on these cards, but all pretty basic abilities, at least. So at this point in the game, it was mostly about numbers, and whoever has the biggest dude wins, or maybe the most backup for them. Definitely a different game than we see today, but that was how it started out, which is I think it was at the same time the main set was released, which has I believe all of the cards that were in the starter decks, and as you can see, I'm having a little trouble opening them. So they came in these blue booster packs. Had 8. This is the unlimited set, so I guess we'll see like what the difference is there, or which ones the starter decks I have are. So Delilah, okay, so yeah, the unlimited is the one that has the Cactus Game Design logo on it, and the cards are kind of upside down. So still not too many abilities, and just kind of old language and stuff too, like Samson and his strength have no effect on Delilah. That's like old wording for ignore, I guess. So yeah, that was the very first set that came out, and the starter decks that came with it. And the next year after that, 1996, the Prophets set came out. It was kind of similar, but there were more abilities, and things got to be a little bit more complicated, and it was the first set to kind of focus on a theme of the Bible. The main set was just kind of like, well, here's all of these different important characters throughout the Bible, or just kind of the ones that most people recognize, like Delilah and Miriam and stuff. Whereas Prophets kind of focused on the prophets of the Bible, so like a specific group of heroes. Um, so I'm not going to read through every card, but I'm just going to show you guys what the set looks like. So as you can see, it's pretty similar to the boost or limited set, the main set, in just kind of like pretty vanilla characters and enhancements. Nothing really too exciting in this set, except for like False Peace and Confusion. Those were kind of maybe two of the bigger ones that actually saw more use in tournament competitive play later down the road. And more importantly, in 1996, that was the debut of Type 2 events. So Type 2 became a category, and it debuted at Nationals in 1996, which is pretty exciting. Not that I was there or even born, but it set a precedent for now when Type 2 is the best category there is. So, yeah. In 1997 now, the women's set came out, and it's been a long time since I've opened foil packs like this, so I'm apparently out of practice in getting them open. The women's set was the first set to have the set icon in the bottom left corner here, just a little W for women. We see a lot more abilities on these cards, or each of them has an ability. Lost Souls and Sights don't. Of course, I say that, and then I don't get cards with abilities. But most of the Lost Souls and Sights did not have special abilities. I think like the female only Lost Soul, I think, was the only one with an ability. But most of the cards in the set have abilities. Job's Wife was actually a pretty strong one for. Still kind of is. She's just a fight by the numbers character, so it negates all characters and enhancements, and battle just determined by the numbers. Reach of Desperation was a pretty popular one in speed decks back in the day. You'd have like Ethiopian Treasure, you'd have Reach of Desperation, and eventually we'll see cards like Prosperity in those Patriarchs, right? Which, a couple years down the road, as you can see, but and then we also have these card inserts, one for the, looks like the Redemption board game, and just kind of some stuff about the game. This one introduced Sights because they were a new card type in women's, or they were introduced as a new card type. So now we have characters, enhancements, dominance, Lost Souls, and Sights, I believe. Yeah, pretty sure that's everything we have up to this point. Now we have a Warriors pack, which the Warriors set came out in 1999. I'm not sure what came out in 1998 other than myself, so now you know. That was kind of an important part of Redemption, right? I think, maybe, I don't know. I do what I can. So after 1999, when Warriors came out, this is interesting. I think they put the rare card face down for me already. And then they have this kind of special instruction card to introduce artifacts, which is the card type that was introduced in Warriors. And I guess we'll see what my rare is. Oh, okay, well, King Saul is a little bit of a disappointment. Warriors introduced some really powerful cards like King of Tyrus, Harvest Time, the Strong Angel, Captain of the Host, Michael. Definitely a lot of really cool cards in this set. Up to this point, we didn't really have any rarity. I think, I guess there were some rares in the main set and I think Prophets. Women didn't really have rarity, but you wouldn't expect to open multiples of a card very often, and Falling Away. This card that came out in Women, probably the most expensive, and the card that stands out the most and is actually still used competitively today. But Warriors, yeah, definitely had a lot of really strong cards. A little bummed to see a King Saul as my rare because in that time a 10/10 was still pretty good, but I don't know. maybe it shouldn't have been a rare quality, because Captain of the Host is also a 10/10, but it negates stuff. So Warriors also introduced Silver Brigade, as we can see on Seraphim here. So I think we started out with 6 of each good and evil brigades, and then finally get the 7th good brigade in silver, which is pretty much all angels. 2000, yeah, just that, was the release of the C&D starter decks. So instead of actually showing you like the whole starter decks like I did with the A and B decks, I'm just going to show you the Son of God and Angel of the Lord dominants, because those have been in every single starter deck. So over here we have the C versions of Son of God and Angel of the Lord, which, as you can see, are the exact same as the D versions of Son of God and Angel of the Lord. They didn't start changing those until the next set. Actually, I'm not sure if they changed those in the revised versions of the C&D decks, which came out in 2002. But these are the versions that I had handy, and I forgot to find out if they did change. It was only a few cards that changed. Like Mary has a different art, and there's just a few other things that I can't think of off the top of my head. But the main difference is they also have the set icon here with the little C and little D. So those are the C&D, Son of God and Angel of the Lord. C&D decks had a few kind of cool cards. Like Search was one that was popular for a long time from the C deck, and it eventually got reprinted in Faith of Our Fathers to be a little bit better. Cannot be negated if used by a prophet. Now that Colosseum is printed, maybe the old one has some merit to it as well. Basically, it just lets you search your deck for any card. So it was False Peace was the evil enhancement in Prophets that lets you do the same thing, and now Search, there was a good enhancement side for that as well. Maybe that's what started off the whole you can get whatever you want in Type 1 2-player now. The kind of aggro progression of the meta. I don't know, probably not. But yeah, that was definitely a fun card, and I mean, still is. You can get whatever you want from your deck and just keep going. But let's go ahead and get on to Apostles here, which came out in 2001. The Apostles set introduced, or it had ultra rares, similar to Warriors, I guess. The Warriors set did have ultra rares, but they were not with a gold border. And the Apostles set introduced, or has ultra rares as well, but they introduced the gold border to the ultra rares. As you can see, well, I guess hopefully we'll open one at some point, but my rare in this pack was Sanhedrin, which kind of a disappointing rare as well. Hopefully we'll get some better pulls as we go through the packs here, but it's kind of a fun card back in the day. You got all Pharisees and Sadducees can band with each other for one turn, so basically it's just band all Pharisees and Sadducees into battle, and Apostles going to introduce the Pharisees and Sadducees kind of archetypes, I guess, which we'll probably see more of in the next set coming up, Gospel of Christ. Yeah, I keep on forgetting if it's plural or not. It's not. It's Gospel, right? Yeah. Let's see. The other thing in Apostles, kind of a fun little quirk about the set, is that the set icon has the ichthys fish on it, but whether it's facing to the right or facing to the left is kind of a toss-up. Like, I don't remember if it's every card in the set, but a lot of cards in the set have a right fish and a left fish version. I think the rest of them are all left fish. So I think left fish is like the standard, and the right is the weird, the alternate, I guess. I don't know. They're not really like rare or anything, but they're just kind of just a trivia thing, I guess. We see a similar sort of thing in the Patriarch set, which was released in 2002 alongside the revised C&D decks. In the art, that on some cards they have art that's flipped both ways, or like depending on which version of the card you have. So wasn't really, they're still not like super rare or anything, but just kind of a little trivia thing. The only one I can think of off the top of my head is like Korra. I always remember seeing him and being like, oh, I got like a misprint or something. I've got one that's facing right and one that's facing left, and of course I was like, pretty young at that point and didn't understand that there were lots of versions like this. Interestingly, I pulled a Stolen Blessing in this pack, which isn't really like a rare card or anything, but it just says selected opponent may not draw cards during opponent's next draw phase. Maybe in Love at First Sight deck, if you can figure out how to pull that off in Territory, then maybe it's good. I don't know. But the card was actually intentionally printed with a misprint that had no set icon and no ability. So it was basically like if you open that, then you got your blessing stolen. That was kind of another interesting trivia. So if you ever see a Stolen Blessing without, all of the regular Stolen Blessing stuff on it, it is technically it's technically not an error card, I don't think, but it's an error card, sort of. Just kind of a fun thing. It's not really worth much, so don't worry too much. In 2003, we got the Kings set, which, as you can see, it's recommended for advanced players. That was kind of a new thing, just because Kings introduced a few things that we hadn't seen before on redemption cards, and so it was at the time considered an advanced set. That isn't really something to worry about here, because I guess one of the things it added was introducing the warrior class and weapon class icons. So your characters have this little left shield, or left part of the shield puzzle filled in, and that means that they are a warrior. And let's see if we got any weapons in here. Yep, we got a Sword of Punishment and a Glittering Spear, which they just have the right side of the shield puzzle filled in, and it just means that you can equip the weapon to your warrior class characters. Warriors also had a lot of reprints, or Kings also had a lot of reprints of the warrior set, because, well, it was giving all of the warriors the warrior class icon. So that was kind of you didn't see a lot of new stuff, but with slightly different abilities. So like the Strong Angel was reprinted as a warrior, and it, instead of negating all characters and enhancements, it negated non-warrior class characters and non-weapon class enhancements. So that was kind of a similar thing with like Ira and Benaya and those other Fight by the Numbers characters. Angel Wars was the next set. I guess, well, it came out the same year as the E and F starter decks. So, quick go through the Angel Wars set, which was based on the animated Angel Wars series, by, I guess, like Telestory Tunes LLC or something like that. It was kind of a weird set at the time. I don't know. I remember vaguely like it coming out, and oh, hey, look, we got an ultra rare. We got a Balance, as you can see. Gold border still remains on the ultra rares here. And anyways, I sort of remember the set being released, or not necessarily released, but like shortly after its release, because we would have our mini camp things and our redemption mini camp at church, and we would have the Angel Wars series kind of playing on a TV in the corner, so that once you finished your game, you could go watch that. It was kind of interesting as a kid, but now realizing that as a set in redemption, it was, kind of okay at best. I don't know. There really aren't a whole lot of strong cards in Angel Wars. At one point, maybe the Revealer Lost Soul or like the first round Protect Lost Soul were kind of the best cards. Michael is somewhat decent. They introduced the warrior class Michael that was New Testament. So the King's version of Michael was warrior class, but he was Daniel. The Warriors version of Michael was not warrior class, but he was Revelation. And so in Angel Wars, we got the warrior class Michael that was in Revelation. So that was kind of relevant in kind of a Revelation deck until Michael the Archangel came out in Revelation of John, as you can see him on here. And now he's kind of the standard for Revelation Angels decks. And then, of course, we'll see the ENF starter deck dominance. They actually kind of kept the same art for the ENF decks, but in each of them they have the Greek version, which gets the gold border ultra rare treatment. I don't know that they're technically considered ultra rares because they're part of the starter decks, but they have the Greek text or title here in the Greek verse, and even the set icon is in Greek here. Same for the Angel of the Lord in the F deck. So those are actually pretty cool versions. I think that a Greek reprint of Son of God and Angel of the Lord with I guess mostly like Son of God, because it would have the updated ability to negate and rescue a lost soul, which we saw introduced with the I and J starter decks that we'll get to. But having a Greek version of that, maybe full art, I think that would be a pretty sweet reprint. We've reprinted Son of God for national promos and that kind of stuff, so having a Greek one would be pretty sweet. So anyways, let's go on to okay, before I go on to priests here, 2005 was actually, so the ENF decks were released in 2004, and then the very next year they released the G and H decks. Kind of forgot that the starter decks were released so closely like that. So with the G and H decks, they had completely different art for each of them. Up to this point, we had seen both of the arts on Son of God. The H deck came from the C and D deck versions of Son of God, and the G deck came from the ENF versions that we just saw there, with a little bit of a color shift, I guess. And then we see two different versions of Angel of the Lord, which actually have different references as well. The G deck one is from Exodus, because it kind of matches the theme of the G deck, which has an Exodus, and it's just kind of an Exodus offense, right? It's like gold and green, yep. And then the H deck has a Disciples, and I can't even remember what's in the starter decks, guys. I don't play with these starter decks. It's like a Disciples and like white New Testament stuff. I think like there's a couple deacons as well, like Parmenas and like John and James, so that kind of stuff. Not that John and James are deacons; those are disciples. But it has an Acts reference, and so there's kind of the difference there. 2005 was actually, or also, my first national tournament. Kind of a little fun fact about me. It was in Burnsville, Minnesota. I was 7 years old at the time, if you're keeping up with the age in years here. And I took 24th out of 45 in Type A. So, I mean, not too bad for a 7-year-old, right? I think. I don't know. I had Justin and Jordan and even my older brother Jonathan, who had been kind of playing at the time, and they were all pretty competitive, and also my sisters Britta and Brianna, they had been playing a little bit as well, and so they had already been kind of in the competitive scene, and they taught me and also my next door neighbor. So we would play together a lot. So I don't know. I think I did start out pretty well off, I guess, and having my older brothers to kind of show me the ropes. So yeah, then 2006 we got to the priest set, which I do believe I was at this nationals as well. It was in New York, and I sort of remember it, but it was I don't remember doing particularly well or anything. Or actually, I guess I didn't look up the how I did, and I believe I played Type A again, I assume. But the preset was released, which was kind of cool. I remember Justin getting a full display box of it. I was like, oh man, that's pretty sweet. But the preset was the first set to not only have the set icon in the bottom corner here, but also the rarity on it. So this has a little R for Joe being the rare in the set. So that was pretty cool. No UC for uncommon on this Angel of the Tomb. And the uncommons and commons, as you can see here, were actually like kind of spread out evenly in the packs. So you would have, let's see, so 4 uncommons and then 5 commons. So yeah, so the uncommons were only slightly more uncommon than the commons, I guess. Although there are probably fewer of them. I don't know. I haven't actually looked at that part of it. But yeah, it has the rarity on here as well, which is kind of cool and something that didn't get kept throughout all of the following sets, but something that was kind of still relevant, I guess. In some of the sets, it was still used for like ultra rares and that kind of stuff. See, there was also the new card type, which was blind, or the curse, which you can see on blindness here, is kind of like a covenant, but it's an enhancement or evil enhancement in an artifact instead of a good enhancement in an artifact. Also, as you can see, there were a couple of new brigades that were introduced in this set. Originally, that was not the plan. My Justin, you remembers being a part of the playtest team and seeing an initial list and seeing no orange or teal on there, and then he went back and looked again, and he was like, "Wait, is this orange thing a joke?" Like, and the other playtesters were like, "Nope, this is what we're doing, or what we decided to do." Originally, the priests were going to be kind of scattered throughout the other 6 brigades, so the regular 7 except for silver, because those were angels. But yeah, it ended up doing teal for priests and then orange for demons. So kind of like angels, demons got their own brigade, and teal, I guess, kind of ended up being the same sort of thing, which not all brigades and kind of groups of cards ended up being like that, but we do have some with like prophets being green, warriors being red, so there are some kind of archetypes. I mean, I guess most of the archetypes kind of fit into a brigade, but so now that's kind of becoming more standard, or as of the release of priests, it kind of started that off, I guess. So then in 2007, you know what, I forgot to mention, 2001 national tournament was the first tournament that offered national promos or for participation, and so the very first one was Authority of Christ, which was a card that was printed in the main set that just said discard all evil characters in play, but then the promo was introduced that said may not be interrupted, negated, or prevented, which just means cannot be negated. So that was the very first national promo that was given out in 2001, and nowadays we see promos like Noah's Ark as the participation promos. This one was from 2016. And then we also have seen some promos for winning categories and RNRS and that kind of stuff. So like this 2020 Son of God special promo that I received for winning Type 2 multiplayer last year. So yeah, definitely kind of some progression in the promos, as you can see throughout the years. But I just figured I'd give those a quick mention since they weren't technically part of a set. So Faith of Our Fathers, this set was kind of released in a new format, I guess. As you can see, I didn't pull it from here. It came from, came in tins, and so they had specific cards that were in each tin. So this one is tin 6. As you can see, they have the little number at the bottom there next to the set icon. Again, with this set, there weren't really any rarities because all the cards that you bought, you knew exactly what you were going to get. And so, tin 6 is always going to be these 10 cards from Faith of Our Fathers, and this was there were 10 tins released, and then the tins were actually used in Booster Draft you start with the tin cards, and then you draft the packs. So I was at 2006 Nationals, and I didn't play Booster Draft, and this was the tin that I got, so that's why I decided to use this one as the example. So this one has kind of the Daniel dudes, Abednego and Meshach. Shadrach had already been printed as a promo at this point, so it only made sense that Abednego and Meshach got printings as well. And then on the defense, you get a little bit of Philistine action here with Philistine armor bearers, kind of a classic in Philistine decks now, or it's like kind of a staple. Was reprinted in Lineage of Christ with kind of a different ability, but there are definitely reasons for using either. And Bringing Fear was another one that was kind of reprinted in Lineage of Christ, but it was a legacy rare, so it does the exact same thing, but just kind of updated availability. And the card face, which we'll see that eventually switched as well in just a few sets away here. So yeah, that was 2007. We saw the first 10 tins of Faith of Our Fathers, and we'll see a few more as we continue to go here. The next year after that, 2008, Rock of Ages was released in kind of the same format, where they had the tins without really any rarity. They actually just continued the numbers here, so this one is tin 12, so tins 11 through 19 were all in the Rock of Ages set. Tin 12, I kind of picked this one because it has some of the New Testament gospel cards in it, like the Generous Widow and the Thankful Leper that we might see in the upcoming set. As you can see, each tin kind of has a particular format where it's about half offense, half defense, and then kind of a couple of utility cards at the front. So it kind of, not all of them will have the same number of like card types and stuff. Like in the last one, the Daniel Foof tin, we saw that there were 3 good enhancements, or here there are 2. But it just kind of depends on, do we want extra utility cards, or what are they going to be? I think every tin in tins 11 through 19 of ROA had a Lost Soul in them. I'm pretty sure that's how they were released, but I'm not positive on that. So then we got back to packs here in 2009, but the packs were built a little bit differently, and we're worrying about trying to figure out how to open the foil packs, because they all came in these little boxes here, which are actually pretty cool. I definitely like the boxes. I think that they're a little bit easier to manage, although they're not quite as exciting as being able to tear that open. But as you can see, I kind of tear this open as well instead of pulling out the tab. So the boxes fold open, and as you can see, this set, Thesaurus Ex Praetoritus, or Treasures of the Past, is the first set in Redemption to have foil cards. All of the cards in the set are foil like this, where they have the kind of silvery background, which is pretty sweet. You can kind of see my camera in there if you they're very reflective, and the packs were also released in such a way where, and with this set, you would get 2 of the new cards, and then you would get a mixture of older cards. So we got a Warriors card here with the Long Day, a few Angel Wars cards, a few Kings cards, some Patriarchs cards, and then some Apostles cards. So it kind of was a way to get people into the game if they want to buy the newest set, but they don't really have the older cards. It kind of helps to build up your collection a little bit like that. And it also is kind of fun for booster draft if you want to use like just box packs and you still get a variety of different sets. So that's kind of how TXP, as it's affectionately known, was introduced. And then in 2010 it did a similar thing with the Disciples. I think you actually got more cards of the new set in this one, if I remember correctly. Perhaps not, I don't know. We'll find out. So you get 4 Disciples cards. And again, these ones don't really have any rarity. There are no ultra rares or anything in the set. Although things like in TXP you had cards like Mayhem and Grapes of Wrath, which were the 2 dominants that were played quite a bit when they first came out, and still we see Mayhem a lot and Grapes here and there. Then after the Disciples cards, we see some more Angel Wars cards again. We see some Patriarchs cards. And hey, look, there's our Apostles Ultra Rare. We got a Guardian of Your Souls and another Ultra Rare, Burial Shroud. Of course, these Ultra Rares from Apostles are nothing too special compared to cards that are being printed now. Although the Burial Shroud has some uses if you're playing like a stall deck or something. The old Guardian doesn't really have any use as long as you have the new one, which was printed in Revelation of John. So the new one basically does the same thing but better. But it can be nice if you're on a budget and just want to have a Guardian because your opponents are playing Falling Away. Then as long as you get to your Guardian first, then you can beat them in that race. I guess before or after Disciples, there was an expansion to FOOF and ROA, or Faith of Our Fathers and Rock of Ages. The expansions to them were released in 2011. We got 3 new tins from Faith of Our Fathers. So as you can see, this is tin 22, and 7 Years of Famine is one of the cards in here, which you might recognize from if you've played with or against the new Love at First Sight combo. You also see 7 Years of Plenty, some other Genesis stuff, and these tins were kind of had it lined up so that the offense and defense were kind of thematically similar, I guess, where here we have Joseph, and then Pharaoh's Baker and Cupbearer and the Dreaming Pharaoh. So all of the some of the characters involved in that story of Joseph there, as well as the 7 Years of Famine and Plenty. And then Rock of Ages, we saw tins 23 through 25, so 3 more tins there as well. This is tin 25, which had a Canaanite defense, and I guess also a Canaanite offense. It was kind of a fun one, I guess. I think, or in my opinion, one of the better ones. I guess we also had the Angel Under the Oak and Samuel in there. That maybe that one's better, probably. But we see like Ishmael, he's pretty popular in Throne decks. Samuel eventually got banned, so he's not quite as exciting. Bravery of David is fairly common in any Red Warriors deck. And then some Canaanite stuff, which is exciting if you're into Canaanites. They're not quite as common now, but or not quite as powerful, I guess, but still viable. Like Stone of Thebes was a really good one against Angel Under the Oak and Gideon, because they were, Gideon was bulletproof and there wasn't a whole lot of regardless of protectabilities at that point. So I guess next up, in 2013, we saw the next set of starter decks, which is actually the most recent set of starter decks. So it's been a while since new starter decks have been released, and but that's in part because these ones were actually really good as far as starter decks go, having very basic abilities and just kind of getting people introduced to the game. If you watched my tutorial videos, you saw in the first one that it was just using the starter decks, and it was pretty straightforward when you're teaching new players or just kind of getting used to the abilities and stuff. But here you can see we kind of had a similar thing with like the G and H decks where the arts were different. We get a new Son of God art here, which is pretty sweet. Which I guess you saw on my the national tournament promo here, which is kind of a full art version of this one. And again, we have the Exodus Angel of the Lord and the Axe Angel of the Lord, which is kind of relevant for cards like David Heart After God, which lets you search for a good OT card. So, you know, at this point, it makes the most sense in kind of any deck to be playing the Old Testament Angel of the Lord, because if your opponent has David Heart After God, even if you don't, then you would still be able to potentially bend to theirs and search for it. It's kind of a minimal difference, but it could be relevant. I guess the same thing with like Spirit as a Dove, which lets you search for a New Testament good card. So yeah, there are cases where you would want both, I guess, but mostly Old Testament at this point. Maybe after Gospel of Christ comes out, that'll change. I don't know. Alright, and then the final Rock of Ages set, or I guess addition to the Rock of Ages set, was in 2013 as well. It came out with the I and J starter decks at the same time, and it was just one tin that added a few cards that are actually still pretty important to the meta. The offense was kind of meh. I guess Temple Dedication is used in like musician offenses and stuff, but the defense is kind of where it's at, because we got Foreign Wives and we have Scattered, both of which see play in most decks, I guess, these days. And both of them are pretty good against the meta of drawing and banding. So there's also Golden Cherubim, which I think is pretty good, especially in multiplayer. And it kind of has the same format as you can see, except it's more of a splashy tin, which would be kind of nice for a draft. I mean, like, getting the teal tins in a booster draft was pretty rough because you didn't have as many teal options to choose from, which was one of the gripes that people had with doing tin drafts, because it kind of forced you into a particular brigade on offense and defense if you want to make use of the tin cards, which usually were pretty good. So that was kind of one thing that people didn't like quite as much about that, but I do think it added kind of a fun element. But now sets are being made in a way where booster draft is kind of kept in mind, and that's actually, I mean, not that they weren't before, but it's just booster draft is, they're kind of geared toward, especially like Lineage of Christ, where we saw 5 main good brigades and 5 main evil brigades, so that you can kind of focus on different brigades if you're doing like an LOC only draft, where you're more likely to have kind of a more substantial deck, I guess. So I guess also with the I and J decks and the tin cards, you can see that we got the new card face. Kind of pull up a different card for comparison. Instead of having the ability on the art, the ability got its own little box here with the reference verse as well. No more kind of scroll looking thing, which was actually kind of a cool aspect to it, but it's definitely a cleaner, more sleek art or layout, I guess, card face. Yeah, we'll go with that one. Stay. So if rotation does happen at some point in the near future, or just in the future in general, it might happen to be that it's only cards on the new card face, so that would be cards starting with the I&J starter decks in 1026 and up. So the next set, Early Church, came out in 2014, introduced the Clay Brigade. I think that, I mean, I didn't hear about this until later on, and I don't know like how, or if it was really like thought about, or how long it was considered for, or if it was just kind of an afterthought. But instead of introducing Clay, if they had just used teal, where like a lot of brigades have kind of an Old Testament theme and a New Testament theme, or like purple has the Old Testament kings of Israel and Judah, and then New Testament disciples. Or teal was introduced instead of clay as kind of the New Testament, early church theme. I think that might have been better for the game. Just kind of in like, now we don't have 9 good brigades and 7 evil brigades, where it's not exactly balanced, and then it would just allow for a little bit more flexibility in deck building and that kind of stuff, where you can maybe kind of mix things, where now like teal and clay kind of have their own things specifically. But I guess like clay was more so about like the Holy Spirit than like specifically the early church. So we do have some Old Testament cards that are clay, but I mean that could have been teal as well. We have some priests in the New Testament, and you can see self-control here is a clay and teal card. So we see that on both. The early church has the rarity on there for, it's a little blurry, there we go, focus. The rarity on there for the rares, but the commons, I guess, don't have any marking down there. The ultra rares have UR, and the cards are also numbered as they were in TXP and Disciples, just to kind of help you keep track of what cards are in the set as well. And in this box, or in these packs, early church packs, we also get some older cards, but these actually include tin cards, which actually make for more exciting drafts, because instead of getting in kind of the apostles and patriarchs cards that are kind of very hit or miss, you get the tin cards, which are a little bit more powerful and have a little bit more synergy, although usually it comes with like cards from the same tin. So as you can see, we got the red tin 1 here, and then also tin 12, which we saw earlier from Rock of Ages. So if someone else is also in red, or maybe they want to disrupt you a little bit, if you take Men of Judah, who bans to Army of Simeonites, then you might not get the Army of Simeonites to come back. But that's not the worst thing. I do still think that the tin cards make for interesting drafts. And then we also see some Kings cards in here, which are usually pretty good as well. You can get some good fight by the numbers heroes and stuff, which are powerful in draft. The next set, in 2015, we saw the release of the Persecuted Church, which, of course, if you're introducing a new brigade, then you want to have kind of multiples of, or like a couple sets in a row that introduce the brigade, or like have it featured, I guess. Teal was actually not too bad right away when Priest was released, just because it was a pretty big set. But early church, well, I don't know. There were some maybe viable options there, but I think Persecuted Church really fleshed it out with, cards like Epaphras making the Colossi theme better, and we saw some Philippi stuff as well. So again, we see a few cards from the new set. We have 4 Persecuted Church cards. We have the rare with the R on there. There we go. And the little axe for the Persecuted Church. Pretty cool icon. And then we got the older cards, which are in their own separate sleeve here. So we got a Warriors card, kind of like in TXP. There was a Warriors card in there. and some Angel Wars cards, some Kings cards, and some Patriarchs cards. Oh, and I guess a couple Apostles cards too. So again, you get a pretty good variety. This one, or Persecuted Church, did not have any tin cards in it, which made them a little bit less powerful for drafts, and especially when Early Church and Persecuted Church just came out, and draft, was, if you wanted to play clay, then you would have to take like every clay card you see in the packs that you're passing around, and even then it probably wouldn't be that good because you weren't as likely to get synergistic cards. You were just kind of playing whatever would come. So in 2016 we had the Cloud of Witnesses set, focused around the heroes that are in the Cloud of Witnesses mentioned in Hebrews like 11 and 12, and it has the cool little cloud icon here, and also continued to have the rare R on there, which will be throughout the remainder of the sets that we'll see here. And again, you get 4 cloud cards, and from the new set, and then some older cards as well. So Flaming Sword, which is the Warriors card, and I think it has a pretty similar breakdown to Persecuted Church, where it's got some Angel Wars, some Kings, some Patriarchs, and some Apostles. But yeah, no tin cards again, which I believe we will see in Revelation of John here, which came out in 2017. Both Cloud of Witnesses and Revelation of John had special alternate border releases at nationals of their respective years, and so there were packs that basically you would have the new cards, but they would have a cool alternate border, and they just look pretty fancy. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get any of those packs for this opening, as I'm fairly certain that nobody has any, or if they do, they're not going to offer them up. So that's all right. I mean, we still get to, they're the same cards, same abilities and everything, just cooler art. I do have a decent number of the Cloud of Witnesses and Revelation of John ones, or each set, but not full sets of each, which is something that I want to do at some point, but just haven't gotten around to kind of keeping track of which ones I need and figuring out trades, because they're definitely more rare than the regular cards. So we got 4 Revelation of John cards and some older cards as well, some Apostles cards, and some tin cards. So again, we got some of the red dudes. Name is Chariot and Horses, pretty good. If you've seen the new King Rezin, Captain of the Chariots, and Damascus combo, the name is Chariot and Horses, that's a pretty good setup. You get to like draw 4 and play an enhancement with one evil character. It's pretty nuts. And then we got some priest cards here to round it off. So yeah, the variety of older cards is kind of nice if you're doing a draft, so you're not getting like the same older cards in each one. And then now that we've gone through about 6 different box packs, then you can, if you do like just a box draft, then you're not just leaving out all the old cards. You still get to see some classics. And now in Fall of Man, we see what was introduced with that, which Legacy Rare. It's actually pretty cool. This Moses was in the G starter deck, also in Warriors, so it was where he originally came out, or at least this version that negated enhancements and characters. There was a version in Prophets, which was like a 6/8 with no special ability or something like that. So not quite as exciting, but the Legacy Rare Moses is kind of nice. They don't get, you don't get a Legacy Rare in every pack. They just replace the rare or ultra rare slot in a few packs. So in Fall of Man, they weren't quite as common because of that, where they're replacing the rare and ultra rare slot, whereas later in future sets they were kind of replacing the common slots. So getting a legacy rare in a Fall of Man pack is actually pretty nice. We also see the introduction of cities in Fall of Man. I'm not sure if I missed any card types being introduced in other sets. I guess maybe I did. So fortresses were kind of introduced at the same time, or well, just after sites, which were released in Warrior or Women's, as we talked about. Fortresses were kind of released in Warriors, where they had the same set or site icon, but they were not treated exactly the same as sites, or I think maybe they were initially, but then they figured out like, oh, that doesn't really make sense for these cards. So then they became fortresses, and in I think Apostles, yeah, we see the first fortress icons. Well, actually, might have been Kings. I'm kind of thinking it's Kings now. We'll stick with Kings. But now in Fall of Man, many years ahead, we've got cities, which are either, I guess, or you can play it as a site or play as a fortress. They usually have different abilities for each of them, so they're kind of flexible with like which side is going to give you the most benefit at the time that you draw it, which is kind of cool. Lots of flexible cards in Redemption now, and you get 5 Fall of Man cards, so they're kind of slowly going up from the 2 in TXP to 4 in Disciples onwards, and now 5 in Fall of Man, and I think that'll be the same in Prophecies of Christ and Lineage of Christ. And as you can see, we've got some Kings cards here, some Patriarchs cards, and a couple Disciples cards, and a TXP card. So even the box packs are being represented in the newer box packs, which is kind of cool. So in 2018, Fall of Man was released. I think it was like in the spring of 2018, something like that. And then it was announced at Nationals that the first phase of Prophecies of Christ would be released in November of the same year, and then the second phase would be introduced in 2019 to eventually get to the point where packs like this have cards from both phases. So yeah, Prophecies of Christ also introduced some new stuff as well. Oh, I guess I missed the territory class thing. Icons, which were introduced in TXP, has this little oasis icon. Just means that for enhancements you can play them in territory during your preparation and discard phases, and then characters that are active in territory. So Scapegoat is actually both a character and enhancement, both of which are territory class. So yeah, and then introduced also star cards. As you can see, we got one here with Jacob's Ladder. Has a star ability, which are just little abilities that you can reveal from your hand as you draw them, as long as you're drawing them by game roll, and then you can activate their ability. So in my first 8 cards, I can reveal Jacob's Ladder from my hand to look at a hand or a reserve, or if I draw it as my first 3 for turn, then I can reveal it and look at a hand or reserve. So yeah, 5 cards again with Prophecies of Christ. And cool part about Fall of Man and Prophecies of Christ and now Lineage of Christ is that it's all kind of this block of sets that's leading up to Christ, I guess. I mean, it's in the name of most of the sets, I guess. Fall of Man was kind of the initial, talking about Genesis and the first sin, where it was in the Garden of Eden, and kind of building up to our need for a savior. And it's kind of this cool traveling through the Bible and seeing how the Old Testament plays into the New Testament, when we have prophecies of Christ talking about the Messiah and Jesus is coming and everything, and then the lineage of Christ kind of going through the the whole line of Christ, which is mentioned multiple times throughout the Bible, and there are multiple genealogies that you can look through, and they are a little bit can be a little bit dry to read, but it is kind of interesting seeing all the different people involved in the good or bad and ugly, and there were a lot of people throughout Jesus's lineage that weren't necessarily good, but then there were ones who were like David who were pretty good, but they were still human. So it's pretty cool to get through kind of all of that, and now with Gospel of Christ coming out, that's kind of the wrapping it up. I guess I don't know what the plan is after that, if they're going to go into another like early church set and then like another Revelation set or something like that, but it's all kind of building up to Christ, and so now with Gospel of Christ, that'll be the life of Jesus and his ministry and everything. So anyways, with Lineage of Christ, this was the set that came out last year in 2020, and has this little blood drop icon, which is pretty cool. I mean, it's talking about kind of leading up to Jesus' sacrifice, which is why he came to the earth. And so again, these cards were all numbered. This introduced a lot of meek cards, which just means that they have no special ability. So as you can see, Asa here, he is in the line of Christ, and so the way that they did a lot of these characters was they have one side that has a special ability here, but also a meek side, which kind of has which has no special ability, different numbers, and then a different name. So he's either Asa the upright. Right now he's not upright, but then Asa the blameless. So kind of playing into different aspects of their lives, I guess, or like the new David is David hard after God, or David the contrite. So kind of like his going super hard to please God and to strive after God's heart, and also kind of his humility, which is the meek side. So here, the extra cards we get in Lineage of Christ, in a regular Lineage of Christ set, or regular Lineage of Christ pack. We get a Rock of Ages card, a couple of starter deck cards from the I and J starter decks, which is interesting. Opening starter deck cards in a pack is something that had not been possible until this point. Some Patriarchs cards, and some Kings cards, and some Age of Wars cards. And as you can see, we've got one more pack here, which Lineage of Christ was released with two different types of packs. Up until this point, all of the boxes have had new cards and old cards in them, but now Lineage of Christ was released so that there are super packs which only have the new cards in them, which is pretty sweet. They're a little bit more expensive, but finally got really nice pull. Look at that. It's just speaking of David hard after God, you can see that he has his special ability side here, which I mentioned earlier when talking about the OT versus NT Angel of the Lord. He just says you can convert him to meek to take a good OT card from deck, and command to a meek hero cannot be prevented. So you can convert him to David the Contrite, take a card like Angel of the Lord or Bravery of David, or some nice strong battle winner from your deck. And now he's a 1/8, so he's probably going to get initiative, and he has the Red Brigade as well, as a lot of the meek heroes do. And another flip hero and some other really cool cards. I really like the Lineage of Christ set. And the nice thing about super packs is that it's kind of like getting two sleeves, I guess, of the new cards in both packs. So you get a rare in each of them. So each super pack has two slots for rares and ultra rares. I don't think you would ever get two ultra rares in the same pack, but I guess it could be possible. It would probably just be a packaging error, I guess. As the display boxes were kind of designed in a way where each of them will have 2 ultra rares. I don't remember exactly when that happened, but it was at some point throughout the sets that they decided to split it up to give you an expected number of ultra rares, I guess, just so that people wouldn't buy a box and then be like, oh well, that was pretty disappointing, I got no ultra rares. Like that, it was kind of a letdown here. So I'll just kind of go through and pull out the rares that I got from each set, just to kind of do a little flashback, I guess, of each of the sets that we just went through. I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video and seeing kind of all of the different sets throughout the years. I hope you guys are excited for the Gospel of Christ to come out. Hopefully this fall, I think, is kind of when we're when we can expect it, I suppose. But don't quote me on that if it doesn't happen to get done by then. I mean, obviously, the more time it takes, the better the set is going to be. It's not like they're just waiting to start working on it or anything. I've seen the list that they're working with now, and I'm pretty pumped for it. So I guess there weren't really any rares in the tin cards here, but we'll just kind of pull out some of the best ones, I guess. Well, 7 Years of Famine definitely isn't the best one, but it kind of is still used. I don't know. I'll pull out my Burial Shroud and Guardian because gold borders are cool, I guess. Yeah, I think that's pretty much where we're gonna wrap it up for this one. I don't know that the rest of the cards are really all that important to see. All of the foil packs, I didn't really get any ultra rares or anything in there. I was kind of hoping to get like a King of Tyrus or a Harvest Time or something, and Warriors or King of Tyrus and Priests as well. But that's all right. I'm pretty happy with getting another David here. Would have been nice to have an Ultra Rare Plus version because I haven't gotten any of those yet of David. But as you can see, it has still has the set symbol and the number here, and it has a little Ultra Rare indicator there. And in LOC, Lineage of Christ, they had Ultra Rare Plus versions of each of the Ultra Rares, which is pretty cool. Kind of just like an alternate border thing, because they started in Fall of Man. Instead of doing a separate release for alternate border cards like they did with Cloud of Witnesses and Revelation of John, they just actually did all of the Fall of Man cards with kind of the special borders and that kind of stuff, and same with every set that they've been doing since then. So as you can see, like Turn to Egypt has kind of the cool like hieroglyphics and stuff in the background there, which is pretty sweet. So anyways, that's where we're going to wrap it up for this video, guys, and thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in about a month or so.